I am EMERSON SAREMO Jr. and we are your presenters for the day. Without further ado, let's start our discussion about the national government budget cycle. National budget cycle is all about allocating the revenue and borrow funds in order to execute the program, project, and activities of the national government agency. The main reference for this report is the National Government Budgeting and Expenditure Management by Dr. Paulilan. This report aims to discuss on what are the processes for the national budget cycle of the Philippines in view of its consideration, objectives, time frame, and who are the institute, agency, and person involved. The national government budget cycle of the Philippines has 4 phases: budget preparation, budget registration, budget execution, budget accountability. Framework of the government budget system shall follow the balanced budget, meaning it shall follow the principle wherein expenditure shall be aligned with the existing revenue. We should take note that the 4 phases of the budget cycle is overlapping in a continuing process. This means to say that where the budget for the next year is being processed, for example the year 2020, the budget for the present year, as indicated in the illustration 2019, is being executed. Hence, there's a need to monitor whether the amount spent produces a targeted outcome. Here's CHARISSE GUMAWA to discuss about the first phase of the budget cycle.
I am CHARISSE GUMAWA, and now let us tackle about the first phase of the budget cycle, which is the preparation. This phase starts with the budget call, wherein different agencies in the government needs to prepare respective budgets in accordance with the approved overall budget ceiling and parameters. The approved budget ceiling is being determined by the Development Budget Coordination Committee or the DBCC. The DBCC is composed of DBM or the Department of Budget and Management, which is in charge with the resource allocation and management. DOF or the Department of Finance is in charge with the revenue generation and debt management. NEDA or the National Economic and Development Authority is in charge with overall macroeconomic policy, and OP or the Office of the President is in charge with presidential oversight. Moreover, before the budget call, the DBCC look into overall economic targets, expenditure level, revenue projection, and financing plan to set the budget ceiling. Once a budget call is issued already, the department and agencies needs to conduct a consultation with civil society organization or the CSO and other stakeholders as they prepare for the preparation of budget proposal. This is to ensure that the budget proposal are firm up and fit in the need of the overall sectoral development strategy of the government. With this stage, the identified projects of the community will also be included in the budget proposal. After consultation with various sectors of the society, each department and agencies will then make their program budgeting. The agency regional proposal shall then submit their approved budget to the respective heads of offices, which all the regional budget proposals submitted by their different regional offices will then be collated and consolidated into a single agency budget proposal of the department. The DBMCO conducts series technical budget hearings where agencies, central offices, and regional offices are called to justify their proposals before the DBM technical panels. Justification will be on view of performance indicators on output targets and absorptive capacity. The DBM bureaus review the agency's proposal and prepare for the recommendation. Given that there is limited government revenue, all program in this process will be deliberated hence. DBCC needs to determine which program should be prioritized and be allocated with the budget. With the DBCC recommendations, the DBM will then present the budget proposal to the President and the Cabinets for refinement and reprioritization. After the President and Cabinets approves the proposal National Expenditure Plan, the DBM prepares and finalizes the budget documents to be submitted to the Congress. The budget preparation phase is being made within 7 months and it should be done within 30 days from the opening of each regular session of the Congress. The first phase of budget process, which is President's budget, is submitted to the Congress. The President's budget is submitted to the Congress after yearly State of the Nation address. Here's JAMIL Kampitan to tackle about the second phase of the budget cycle.
I am JAMIL Kampitan. Let's move forward to the second phase, the budget legislation. In the process of the budget legislation, the legislative body of the government tackle the President, budget, and the agency are then to justify their proposed programs and projects.
House deliberation is the start of the process under this place. The Appropriation Committee and each subcommittee of the House of the Representative they schedule and conduct hearings on the budget of the department and agency. The aims of this process the CRAP, the General Appropriation Bill or GAB. Like all other laws, the GAB is approved on the second and third reading before transcript formally start after the House of the Representative transcript the Finance Committee. And each subcommittee actually start hiring on the GAB even the House deliberation is going. The committee submit its proposed admittance of the GAB to the plenary only after his has been formally transmitted by the House. They will each constitute a panel to the bicameral conference committee. The harmonized is then submitted to the both House, which will then ratify the final GAB. For the submission to the President, once submitted to the President for his approval, the GAB is considered enrolled and the President and the DBM will then review the GAB and prepare the veto message. In last process under budget legislation is when the President signs the General Appropriation Act or GAA. This is the legislative authorization that contains all the annual expenditure program of national government and all its instrumentalities. GAA should be enacted before fiscal year starts, which means budget legislation will be processed from August to December. If GAA will not be enacted the previous year's GAA is automatically re-enacted. This means the agency budget from programs, activities, and projects remains the same.
Here's KENNETH LAPON to tackle about the third phase of the budget cycle.
I'm KENNETH LAPON. The third phase of the budget execution. The budget execution entails the releasing and usage of funds, the approved programs, projects, and activities the government as stated in the GAA. However, we should take note that even if there is an approved GAA for a such fiscal year, the budget for it still needs to be collected from taxes, and if there projected budget deficit, the government needs to incur domestic and foreign loans. Also, certain processes are needed to be accomplished before the budget could be released. However, with the General Appropriation Act as an allotment order under President Duterte, the process of budget execution was lessened. This is a way of releasing the funds in a more efficient and responsive to the citizens' needs. The more efficient early bidding is implemented even before the GAA is passed because this will enable the agencies toward their projects as early as day one of the fiscal year. Projects can already be implemented in January. The agency are required to submit their adjusted budget execution documents based on the GAA. These documents includes the Fiscal and Financial Plan of Monthly Cash Program or MCP, estimated monthly income, and the list of obligations that are not yet due and demandable. In the present administration, the GAA served as the allotment release document. The government don't need to wait for the ADM to be issued anymore, and less sorrow are needed in this process, as much authorized agencies can already use the appropriate budget except for multi-user, specially purpose funds and other items needed or specially budget requests. In the next process, the agencies can now incur commitments and liabilities in the form of contract for the supplier or contractor that will commit to deliver the goods and services for the implementation of the program or the project. The basis for the BBM to determine the disbursement requirements of the agencies to implement their program and projects. They shall submit their monthly cash program or MCP reflecting their monthly requirements. The MCP shall indicate the proportion to be funded out of notice cash of allocations or NCA, non-cash availment authority or NCAA, or cash disbursement ceiling or CDC. Finally, money is now paid out from the Treasury to settle government's obligation. This process will throughout the fiscal year, starting from the allotment release to awarding of the contracts to cash allocations and then disbursement again. This process will be repeated until all proposal will be funded. Done the last part, here's Mary Rose Lau to tackle about the fourth phase of the budget cycle.
I am Mary Rose Lau. First, let's recall again that in the budget preparation phase, the projects and programs should be aligned in the government tasks. However, how would we know that the amount spent by each agencies did in fact were spent and produced based on their target outcomes and proposed budget? Hence, we need this last part, the budget accountability. This phase will let the agencies be accountable on the funds that they have received. From the prepared bids in the budget execution phase, the DBM requires the submission of budget accountability reports or BARs. These reports are submitted by agency on monthly and quarterly basis. BARs are required reports that show how agencies use their funds and identify their accomplishments and performance targets were met. We should take note that the auditing part is under COA. Hence, DBM uses COA's audit report in confirming agencies' performance, determining budget level for the agencies, and addressing issue in funds usage. In the stagnant compliance with the reporting requirements after the 3 call-up letter from the DBM shall strictly enforce no report, no release policy. Under Section 57, failure to submit report means automatically cause suspension of payment of their salaries of an official or employee who violates the provision of this section. Also, disciplinary action that may be instituted against such official or employee. For public disclosure process, posting of reports should be every month to create citizens' engagement and review performance tasks. Mid-year report will be done from August to September. And lastly, COA will conduct audit within the following year. And after budget accountability phase, it will proceed again to the budget preparation and cycle will continue and again in an overlapping manner. Thank you again for listening. This is the presentation of our team.